Spotlight is a production of CTNY, the Catholic Television Network of Youngstown. It seeks to spotlight people, places, and events from around the Diocese of Youngstown that promote the new gospel of joy called for by Pope Francis. Your program host is Father James Corda.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Spotlight. I'm Father Jim Corda. Today we're going to talk about St. Vincent de Paul Society. And joining me is the president of the society here in the Diocese of Youngstown, Brian Antal. And Brian, I'm so glad to have you on the show today.
It's an honor and pleasure to be here, Father. Thank you for having us.
You know, it might be good for the folks that are with us to give a little background into the history of the Society of Vincent de Paul. It's an old society. It's been around for a long time. It's one of the service arms of the church. Give us a little flavor for the organization itself.
The St. Vincent de Paul Society was founded by Blessed Frederick Ozanam in 1833 in France. They didn't have the foresight or the vision to know what the size of the society would grow to as it is today. We have over 46,000 conferences now. But in 1833, he started it in France, him and some other young men. He was 20 years old at the time. And they were just out to help the poor and those in need. And their mission continued and continued. And it grew throughout France, all of Europe, had substantial growth into about the 1860s. And from then on, it took off to other countries. And then during about 1840, 1850, the first one was founded here in the United States in St. Louis, Missouri.
Now, it's interesting because many things find their beginnings in Europe and then come to the New World. And when it came to the New World, obviously, you know, Christianity was founded, but the church was struggling as that was the time. And so there probably were many people who were needy and poor. And then, of course, that has never changed. You know, before we started the taping, you had mentioned how nice it would be if we didn't have to have a St. Vincent de Paul Society, but unfortunately we live in the kind of world that it's necessary. In your personal experience working with the poor and the needy, what gives you the greatest joy in doing that personally for you?
It's a pleasure to know that you're helping someone. You know, God's always blessed myself and my family, and it's just a good way to give back. And not everyone is fortunate as we are in life, and everyone deserves that opportunity to be treated with dignity and respect, and to make their life a little bit better. Obviously, we do a lot of stuff around the holidays. People really appreciate that, and it's nice as a volunteer. You know, I've talked to our other volunteers to know when you wake up, like on Thanksgiving morning or Christmas morning or Easter morning, to know that, you know, all these families that we've raised money for and we've raised food drives for have a little bit of a better day, just to make even one day better for them, and it helps. And that's, I think, that what motivates all volunteers in our organization.
We're going to talk a little bit more later on in our show about the volunteers, because like many organizations that serve the needy and the poor, it's a volunteer basis. And so we need those people to continue that mission. Let's go back to some of the beginnings, like here in the Diocese of Youngstown. What would be some of the beginnings that we find here in our diocese with St. Vincent de Paul? Obviously, there's parish base for that program. Does every parish have a Vincent de Paul Society, or are they supposed to?
It's up to the parish. If the St. Vincent de Paul Society is a guest in the parish, so it's up to the pastor and the congregation if they'd like to have a St. Vincent de Paul Society. The St. Vincent de Paul Society is a lay organization, so we're all separate from the church. We work very closely with the parishes, obviously, and with the diocese, but we are standalone from the diocese or from Catholic Charities. So, getting back to the roots of it, Father, the rule, as we call it in the society, that was adopted like in about 1835 is pretty much still followed today. And that starts at the lowest level, which is a church conference. It has its own president and leadership, and then a district council, and all the way up. So any parish that's willing to have us and work with us, we're more than happy to to come there and participate.
Now, your role as president of St. Vincent de Paul here in the diocese, what exactly is your particular role, and how do you exercise that role?
As the diocesan president, we oversee 3 counties: Mahoning, Trumbull, and Ashtabula County. And for the lack of a better term, I'm the guy that goes out and beats the society's chest and lets everybody know what we're doing. In charge of fundraising. We do a lot of fundraising and getting the word out what the society does, volunteer recruitment, volunteer retention, and if a parish is interested in setting up one, we'll come out and talk with the pastor and the individuals who are interested in running it, and just get the good word out about the St. Vincent de Paul Society and help as many people as we can.
It's interesting because I've been in several different parishes over the years, and my experience is that it's not just the big parishes around the diocese and around the country that support and promote St. Vincent de Paul Society, but it's even the small parishes, those who may not have a lot of money in the bank, and yet they have a commitment to the poor and to the needy. Do you find that in your experience locally?
Absolutely. I mean, we call it the widow's mite. And you can have the widow's mite, financially or with the donation of time and effort. And maybe they're financially challenged. But you can always run food drives and clothing drives, and we're there to assist you with that. And it's sometimes you can actually, in your mind, think that you're getting more out of a smaller parish than a larger one, and you get frustrated. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's great though to see those who want to help and we're there to help everyone.
We're down to the last few minutes of our first segment together. What I'd like us to focus on now, if we could, is some of the assistance that St. Vincent de Paul Society provides. Let's say there's a family that's in need. Oftentimes, at least in my experience, they're very hesitant and reticent to come forward and say that they have a need.
Correct.
What do we do in that case?
There's a certain level of lack of a better term, embarrassment when someone needs to get assistance for the first time. And the first time that they go to a soup kitchen, dining hall, or a food pantry, or pick up the phone to call for an utility assistance, their life has changed forever. And it's very important with us as volunteers and working with them to treat them with the most dignity and respect we can and help them through it, because a lot of times they're going through a very tough time in their life. A medical emergency, they've lost their job, they've had a hardship due to a funeral. And the society's there, at every level to help them. Like utility assistance, funeral assistance, all that's kind of handled at our conference church level. Mm-hmm. And we try to do that regionally so that we're helping as many people as we can. And then you get into the district level, we can talk about it later, into the food pantry level and the soup kitchen level.
Let's go back to some of the assistance. We got 1 minute left. I know that I was in a parish many years ago that was an inner city parish, and yet it had a very large Vincent de Paul Society. And it seemed like the few organizations that were part of the church at the time were really behind the whole organization itself. And I was just amazed at the people who came forward to help those, especially during the holidays. And why is it important during the holidays especially to help people?
That's when the need's the most. Everyone's, at that time, especially around Christmas, it becomes about the kids, making sure that the children out there have a Christmas dinner, a few gifts under their Christmas tree. And I think everyone just wants to give back at the end of the year, but it's just as important to help those in need during June, July, and August as it is in November and December. And sometimes we all lose sight of that. We get a little bit lax during the summer with our donations and our time donations. And it's a 12-month job, unfortunately, Father.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but we're going to take a quick break.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
What have you done for your marriage today?
I gave my wife a hug this morning. I told her I love her.
I did her hair this morning. I think it looks pretty good.
I cooked my husband's favorite breakfast.
I bought her an orchid.
What have I done for my marriage today? I sent my husband a love email.
I read the newspaper to my wife, and it cracked her up. She's still laughing.
What have you done for your marriage today? Make a change for the better. Need help? Go to foryourmarriage.org, a message from the Catholic Church.
Light Moments. Here's Father Tom McSweeney.
When the U.S. Navy was testing a new torpedo back in 1962, it encountered a strange problem. Whenever the targeting device sent out a sound, it would be answered from underwater. And these mysterious sound waves caused the torpedo to go off course. And for 2 years, the Navy tried to find the source of the interference. And finally, they discovered that the sounds came from dolphins trying to make friends with a torpedo. Friendliness was literally making a weapon ineffective. Now consider this. If the innocent sounds of a dolphin can throw a technologically advanced torpedo off course, what might a calm human voice do to diffuse potential conflict? A smile, a sincere compliment, or a word of praise could be the solution to an explosive problem.
This message from the Christophers.
Welcome back to our show. I'm talking with Brian Antal, who is the president of the St. Vincent de Paul Society, and we're talking specifically about that society here in the Diocese of Youngstown. Brian, before we took a break, we were talking a little bit about some of the assistance that the society provides for those in need. What are some of the particular services that St. Vincent de Paul actually provides? Let's say someone has all kind of needs. What are some of the things that you can do for them?
Well, the two big business units that the district council has is our soup kitchen down on Front Street, and we're open there 6 days a week, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 10:30 to noon. You come down and get a hot meal. We also offer a bag lunch, dinner to take home with you to get you through the evening. Then on Saturday morning, St. Michael's Parish for about the last 30 years comes down and serves like a hot breakfast on Saturday morning. And then we have a new group that's coming down, Open Arms Community Outreach, that we're not affiliated with, but we work very closely with. They're a good partner of ours. And they come down every other Saturday, and they provide a sack lunch and clothing and personal care items. So 6 days a week, the folks can come to the soup kitchen and get some type of assistance. And from time to time, we'll have a youth group or an organization come in and serve dinner on Sunday. And then we have our food pantry over on Mount Carmel Way. And there you can get a box of food. We operate our pantry a little differently. We do it on a voucher system through a referral. That allows us to serve as many people as we can there as well.
Now it's interesting because you had mentioned about a referral. Let's talk about how that works. I would imagine that there are some people who might abuse the system, and that's unfortunate, but that's part of the institution.
It's called reality.
Yes. So tell us about the referral and what exactly are you looking for in that regard?
The individual needs help. You know, if someone's out there, they need help, they can call their local Catholic church and see if they have a St. Vincent de Paul Society. And then one of the individuals, volunteers, will call you back or come out and do a home visit. We're very personal. We like to do home visits when we can. In some areas, it's just not sensible in this day and age, unfortunately. But we'll put you through a series of questions on the phone to see if there's a need, and if there is, then we'll get you a voucher and come down to the food pantry, and they'll get you a box of food. And it's a box of staples: macaroni and cheese, peanut butter, pancake mix, vegetables, either ground beef or a whole chicken, and it's really a stopgap, Father, to get you through a week and a half or 2 weeks, depending on the size of your family.
And I would imagine that there are some people who come that are in need only because they didn't get paid enough or something happened. And so oftentimes it is more of a temporary kind of, and I hate to use that word fix, but it's a temporary help.
Correct.
For their particular need. Do you find people who come often on a regular basis? And if you do, what do you do in that regard?
We do, and after a certain amount of time, we'll try to sit down with them and point them in the right direction. Other organizations who are able to help them more along the lines of either rehabilitation or direction that they need in their life. And we don't really have any social workers online, so we'll refer them to either like Catholic Charities or 211, and those they have trained professional individuals to do that. But we'll try to get them in the right direction to get their life back in order. And we're seeing more and more of the working poor too,
I'm sure.
in NYSU students. So there's people out there who are just trying to make the ends meet, and by the time they pay the gas bill and their health insurance bill and take care of the kids, there's just not a lot of food left at the end of the month.
Well, I was glad to hear that not only do you feed them when they come to the center, but you give them something to take home. So there's almost a sense that your good works kind of go with them.
Yes.
And I'm just so amazed in different dealings around different areas in our diocese, how many kids in our schools don't have enough food in the evening to eat. So they rely on these programs the next day, whether it's a breakfast program or lunch program, to get food. And so come the weekend, they have nothing.
And we actually partnered with the Youngstown City Schools now, and we have an after-school snack program. And we supply the snacks for the after schools for about 4 or 5 different schools. And we're doing about 140 bag lunches 4 days a week. And I've met with some of the teachers, and I know a few of them, and they've told me that a lot of these children, that's the only meal they'll have until, like you just touched upon, until the school breakfast the next morning, and it breaks your heart. And about 4 years ago, my daughter Alexis started our back to school program. And she packs about 200 or 250 backpacks herself every year, and we get those out to those in need at the pantry or at the kitchen, because obviously if the folks don't have money for food and utilities, they're not going to have money for new school supplies. So our thinking is if we get them a new backpack, folders, pencils, crayons, everything that you need to go back to school, you know, if we can get 1 kid or 2 kids off on the right foot that changes their lives, we've done what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, that's a wonderful ministry that she's involved with, and that St. Vincent de Paul promotes and encourages. We're down to the last 2 minutes of our middle segment. What I'd like to do is talk about, there's a word that we use when we deal with people who are particularly in need, and that is the word compassion. But I think there's a smaller word that's a component of that bigger word that I think people who are in organizations that help the poor and the needy have to have, and that is passion. The people that work with you and for you, do they have that passion? And if they do, where does it come from?
We have a very large, dedicated volunteer base who are very passionate about what they do, and they enjoy helping people. And you know, as far as the compassion goes, sometimes coming to the soup kitchen, yeah, they're getting a warm meal, but sometimes it's just they want to bend someone's ear, and they're looking for someone to talk to and put a smile on their face. And when I walk through there, I don't spend a lot of time there as the president because of the amount of paperwork and other things. But it's nice to see their eyes light up when they see the person in charge coming through, and from time to time sit down and ask them how they're doing. And it's a lot of people in their minds they don't care about them. And our volunteers will take the time to sit there, and I hear stories about they'll take so and so to the doctor after they're done with their shift, and these are volunteers that aren't getting paid at all. So there's a lot of compassion, which leads to the passion. And I think it's the same thing. I ask a lot of volunteers why. You've done this for 20 years, and they say it's because I've always been blessed, and this is how I like to give back.
Well, I think many of the organizations that feed the poor do more than just put food in front of them. There's almost like a human relationship that forms because they are an individual. They are a child of God. They are a person. And so there's a sense that we need to minister to the whole person, not just feed their bodies, but also kind of feed their minds and their souls as well, and how important that is. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, but we're going to take a quick break. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
There is a place where a total stranger will give you their blood. There is a place where someone you never knew will save your child from drowning. A place where people from 7 states away will turn up at your door and give you food and shelter after a flood. There's a place where a person who doesn't look like you, talk like you, or dress like you will stretch out their hand and put it across your shoulders and say, everything is going to be okay. That place is called America, where we look out for each other, and it's up to us to keep it that way. When you help the American Red Cross, you help America.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I'm talking with Brian Antal, the president of St. Vincent de Paul Society. One of the wonderful things about the society is that they engage parishes, and we've talked in our various segments about parish involvement. Is there one person who's usually kind of a contact for you in a parish? And if so, how do you relate to that person?
Normally it's our conference president at that church. And also we try to have a good relationship with the pastor of each church because, as I said earlier, we're a guest in the parish. So we want to work tightly with the pastor and with the conference president to facilitate collections, facilitate food drives, anything that we can do to help out the needy. We know that there's some fundraisers that are part of the organization that you rely on annually to help out because this is a not-for-profit organization. So you do need people and generous people to provide the resources that help you provide the resources for the needy. So what are some of those fundraisers that you provide that people can get involved with? We do two major fundraisers a year. We'll do our Winter Gala, which is held every year at Mr. Anthony's in late February. We just finished that up. And then in the fall, which will be September 26th this year, we're going to have our 4th or 5th annual steak fry. And we're going to, Father Keener's allowing us to have it at St. Christine's this year. Those two account for about 15 to 18% of our budget. Everything else is private donations and private grants. And so it's a lot of handshaking and letter writing to fund it. It takes us about $250,000 a year to run the operation. Now, do we get money from St. Vincent de Paul from the government at all? We do not. We get a small FEMA grant. Every year I've been president, it's got less and less. I think eventually it's going to go away, but we'll take what we can get, which probably covers about 5% to 6% of our budget. But everything else, Father, is fundraising and donations. In your experience over these last several years as president, have you seen that support for the financial component increase or decrease or stay the same? What have you seen over the years? As we've gotten out in the community more and we've done different programs and more outreach and attended more events, everything has grown. You know, we couldn't do things without generous people in terms of like donations of food. Henry and Emmons with day-old bread and day-old pastries for those at the soup kitchen and at the food pantry and other organizations giving us that type of product. It's just grown exponentially as the words got out, and we without them, we couldn't do it. We're very, very appreciative of it. Someone said, and I might have seen this in the news, that there are so many products, food products, that institutions discard because they have to. Not because they're bad, but because they just have to as part of their licensure, whatever it is. But you must rely on many organizations and different groups to provide that because you can't do it on your own, and one parish can't do it on their own. So there's a collective community effort. And how do you engage more community help over the years? It's really a word of mouth referral system is seems to be our best. So-and-so knows so-and-so that's worked with us and helped us out. And, back to the parish level, St. Dominic's Church during the winter months makes soup every Monday and brings it down. So then every Tuesday we'll have soup and grilled cheese. St. Charles does pasta. And I think they do that every other week and they bring it down. So as you said, for one church or one small group to do it all themselves, it would be almost impossible. And it would be a hardship on us financially too. So everybody who can do a day or two here, and we have a lot of parishes come down and volunteer for a whole week, and they'll sponsor that week, and they'll provide the volunteer labor, and financial support for the week, and we'll put their name outside the building. Now, do you ever have an opportunity where you have too much help in a given day? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thanksgiving. Yes, it is. Thanksgiving, it fills up pretty quick. And that's one of the special meals that we have. We try to make it really special for those individuals on Thanksgiving, tablecloths and centerpieces, and we'll try to serve them dessert, just like we talked about in the first segment, just to try to make them feel a little bit better and a little more of that compassion. We're down to the last few minutes of our final segment. What I'd like to do is, for the folks that are with us, give us a website, a phone number. If they want to contact you or St. Vincent de Paul, how can they do that if they want to give food or money to the society? If they would like to volunteer at the dining hall, they can call down and 330-746-4004, and then the kitchen manager will get them scheduled in. It may not be the exact day they want to go, but we'll work you in. We always want new volunteers so they can come down and see what we're doing. At the food pantry, it's 330-746-1128. And again, that individual will get you scheduled in at the food pantry. Or if you're a business organization, if you want to have a food drive, call the food pantry. Donations can call either of those numbers. And our website is mahoningsvdp.com. And you can go on, we've got some pictures, and you can always donate through our website as well.
I'd like to go back to the volunteers in our final minutes, because they're really the ones that help you and that help continue the ministry to the poor. What would you say to the volunteers that help you on a regular basis? What would you like to tell them?
Thank you. Thank you. And on behalf of the 120 or 130,000 people we serve every year, thank you. I know that they tell them thank you as they come through the line or get their box, but a lot of them don't get a lot of recognition, and it's all behind the scenes. So we do say thank yous for making the mission possible. I can do what I can do, but I couldn't go serve 130,000 people by myself.
And what would you like to tell someone who might be listening that never thought of helping at St. Vincent de Paul? What could you tell them that might get them interested in that?
Pick up the phone, call us, come down and try it. And most people who come down once come back again and again and again. It's a very rewarding opportunity, and everyone needs to do it that's been blessed in their life.
I know my experience over the years is that people always contribute when there's this need for the poor. And how often when we look at the life of the church, that has really been some of our driving force, is to meet the needs of the poor. And even more so now, obviously Pope Francis has said that over and over again. So that's really the challenge and the call for us to do that. And I would think that you would be open to any kind of donations. In particular, what donations are you looking for?
Obviously, it takes a lot of money to do what we do, so we like monetary donations. If a group wants to cook food, get in contact with us at first. We can't just take every food donation. Make sure you want to cook and bring it down. We can set that up for you. We take clothing. We pass out clothing every Thursday for free to those in need. We don't sell it. We just redistribute it. So anything that you can do to help. We'll take gently used toys. We'll redistribute them at Christmas. School supplies when back to school starts. So just call any of those phone numbers and we'll get in contact with you. And there's a million ways to help.
And especially, as you had mentioned earlier, the summer months, the need doesn't lessen in the summer. It's almost the same sometimes.
Actually, it increases because we'll get a lot of kids that are out of school. They don't have that luncheon at school. So they'll ride their bikes down to the soup kitchen and eat. And it's amazing how many times you'll see now, in this day and age more than ever before, someone who volunteered and donated not receiving assistance. So you just never know. It's a good reason to call.
Well, Brian Antal, it was a pleasure to have you on the show today, and thank you for the work that you do. It's
thank you.
Wonderful work, but it's also, I'm sure, gratifying for you.
Very.
But people are grateful to you for what you do.
Thank you for having us, Father.
Thank you. And thank you for being with us. Have a good day, and God be with you.
Spotlight has been a production of CTNY, the Catholic Television Network of Youngstown. Your program host was Father James Corda.